Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of my opinions about classical music. If you are a new viewer, welcome, and if you're an old viewer, welcome back. I'm super happy to have you here either way. In today's video, I am super excited to talk about TwoSet's Passacaglia from their Munich concert. If you've been paying attention to the community page, you already know that this is by popular demand, and that next week we are going to talk about Eddie's La Campanella from the same concert. But anyway, let's just jump right into it. I will be showing a tiny bit from the sheet music that's in their Ling exam syllabus, which is a book they made about the tour where you can see some pictures and sheet music and all that kind of stuff. I am unfortunately not sponsored by TwoSet Apparel or TwoSet, but you can get the book itself from twosetapparel.com or you can buy it at the concert like I did. But anyway, the Passacaglia, let me give you some quick facts about that. A very short explanation, a Passacaglia is what is played between dances in like the old times. Think like 1600-ish, which happens to be around the time Handel was alive. He was born in the late 1600s. This Passacaglia is composed by Norwegian composer Johan Halvorsen, who happens to be from the same city in Norway that I am from. But anyway, that was a bit of a sidetrack. The Passacaglia was based on one of Handel's pieces. More specifically, his harpsichord suite in G minor, the last movement. And also the version that Johan Halvorsen made was originally for, I think it was violin and cello, and then it was also made for violin and viola. But this version is obviously for two violins. And from what I can tell from the Ling exam syllabus, I think they've had someone do this arrangement for them. Or they could have done the arrangement themselves. I don't really know if it's someone they paid to do it or if they've done it themselves. But I don't think this is an arrangement that they've purchased from a publisher or anything like that. And there's a few reasons for that, but I will get into that later. So, for the bits I really like how they play the opening of this Passacaglia. The Passacaglia works a bit like Paganini's 24th Caprice, if you've heard that. It's got one theme, and then it's got variations of that theme throughout. And this is the part where the theme is first presented. I really like how the piano ties the violin parts together, but that you can still separate out the different violin parts if you want to. The opening is not my favorite part, but it's a really good part. I think the best part though is the melody that Eddie plays from bar 5. Eddie plays second violin, by the way, and yeah, it just flows really well. And also the transitions between them when they change who plays the melody is really nice in this bit as well, both in bar 8 to 9, the transition there, and bar 12 to 13. That's, yeah, it's wonderful. I also like how the sound levels between them in bar 13 is really well balanced. Let's just have a quick listen to the first 16 bars of this, and let me know if you agree with me on the transitions. It's really nice, isn't it? But anyway, then there's a bunch of stuff that's happening, and I like it, but it's not like my favorite bits, so I won't talk about it. Instead, I will jump right to bar 48, where something I really like happens. Or rather, this is something that happens throughout the piece, I guess, but it's the first time it's really obvious, and I really like it, so I'm going to talk about it. And that is the fact that Eddie's endings, like the phrase endings, the end of this musical sentence, if you will, is so good. And the ending that's in bar 48 is just one example. There are many more. Let's have a quick listen from bar 45 and see if you agree with me. And now, you guys, comes my favorite bit of this whole thing. Bar 49 and the 16 measures after it. I just love this bit so much. This is in part because of Halvorsen's great writing and Handel's great writing, but I also think it's somewhat to do with how TwoSet played it. I particularly like the transition between 56 and 57, especially the crescendo at the end of 56. The way it pulls the music forward and makes the next bit feel really elevated is amazing. It really goes from this heartbreak sad moment from 49 to this really passionate moment in 57. And then on 61 we get the echo of this passionate moment, which is a bit more sad again. And by the way, we are ignoring the fact that Brett plays the wrong rhythm in 57, just so you know. And anyway, moving on, at the end of this bit we get Eddie's amazing finish on this phrase. The score doesn't really say ritardando, which is to slow down at the end of a phrase usually, but the way the music is written calls for one anyway. So let's listen to this bit, and keep in mind this is my favorite bit, so listen closely. So let's jump to the next bit I like, and that is 69. And if you are one of the lucky people who have the score in front of you, you have the physical Ling exam syllabus in your hand and you're looking at the score. Your reaction when I said that was probably, hey, isn't 65 basically the same thing? And yeah, it's kinda the same thing. In 65 he played Arco, meaning with the bow, while in 69 he plays pizzicato, which is that he plucks the strings. And while I think they play really well both times, I just prefer the version where both of them play pizzicato. Let's actually listen to both and then have a vote in the comments. Do you prefer 65 where Eddie plays Arco, or do you prefer 69 where Eddie plays pizzicato? Let's listen! Let me know in the comments down below, what did you think? Did you like 65 with Arco or 69 with pizzicato? But then moving on, we're skipping a bit again because I think it's fine, but I don't love it, so I'm not going to talk about it, and then instead go to 77. And what I really like about this bit is how it flows really well. I prefer the level of phrasing they did in 49, my favorite bit, but I also think they do really well here. The only thing that kind of spoils it a tiny bit are the harmonics at the end of the phrase. I can't really put my finger on exactly what it is about the harmonics that I don't like. I guess it could be just the change of tone quality that doesn't really do it for me, but it's hard to tell, I don't really know. A change of tone quality I really do like though is when they play this bit the second time because of the repetition mark, it is played sul ponticello. And if you now thought what the heckity heck is sul ponticello, it basically just means that you move the bow of the violin closer to the bridge when you play. Sul ponticello means literally on the bridge, and what it does is that it provides more overtone rich tone quality. So instead of it sounding like this, it sounds a bit more like this. I think that's pretty neat, but what do you think? Let me know. But anyway, moving on, we get to 81, which is another great bit. This bit has a call and response structure, which means that one player plays something and then the other player plays a response to that. Almost like a question and then an answer. So Brett asks the question and then Eddie answers. And I really like how they transition between each other in this bit. Let's have a quick listen to that. I really like the structure in the music. It makes it really easy to follow in a way. Then the next bit is 89, and I really like this bit. This is also not one of my favorite bits, but it's a really good bit, so I will include it. I think the reason why I don't really love this bit is nothing to do with TwoSet. It's more like the scales aren't that interesting. I also listened to a few different other versions of this piece, including one by Perlman and Zuckerman. And it just made me realize that it's just this bit that I don't really like. It's nothing to do with whoever plays it and how they play it. But I will say that I think I have a slight preference for TwoSet's version, because it's a bit gentler on the air. So let's listen to it. And then there's a whole bit that I don't like, so we'll just skip right to the ending of the piece, which I do like. I really like the full sound of this bit, and I really like the phrasing and how it really feels like an ending from the beginning of the ending, if that made any sense at all. So let's listen to this bit before I go into some general remarks. So for the general remarks, I really like this performance. It is a great performance and I loved seeing it live. But if I were to give them slight critique, which is barely anything at all, I would probably say that Eddie's part kind of drowns a bit in the piano at some points in the piece. I think the most obvious part is 25 to 28, where you can hear Sophie and Brett really well, but you can only kinda hear Eddie occasionally. And it is a thing that happens throughout in various degrees, and I think there could be two solutions to this that are really simple to do actually. The first one is basically that Eddie turns slightly towards the audience. I know, chamber music, you have to look at the people you're playing with. But I really think it hurts his projecting, so I think it would be good if he turned around just slightly. And also keep in mind that the second violin part is actually an arrangement of a viola or a cello part, so it doesn't really project as well because it's in the lower range on the violin. Another solution could be to lower the lid on the piano, but then also we're at risk of losing the good sound blend we had before. But anyway, the last bit of critique-y thing I want to say is actually aimed towards the sheet music in the Ling Ling syllabus itself. Again, I am not sponsored by TwoSet Apparel, but I do love all the pictures and most of the sheet music in this book. It's amazing and I do love looking at it. But while I was looking at the sheet music for this piece in the Ling Ling exam syllabus, I noticed a few things that are a bit interesting. And look, before I even say anything, it seems to only be this particular piece. All the other pieces in the Ling Ling exam syllabus are perfectly fine. So the tiny critique is that there are some pretty obvious engraving issues in this sheet music. And look, it's not something that makes the score unusable or impossible to understand or anything like that, but it's something that you would stumble over if you try to sight read it, for instance. Some examples of this are when the lines are unevenly spaced or when the numbers on the tuplets are not in the right place. There's also a bit in the second violin where the line shifts aren't in the right place, so it makes the music crammed onto one line. And it's a bit weird because it seems to just be an oversight, because in the first violin it's done perfectly fine. So it's minor things like overlaps and stuff like that shouldn't really be happening in published music, in my opinion. At least not to this extent. And I get it, you're not like a publisher or anything like that, but it seems to have gone really well in all the other pieces, so why is this one not like the other ones? But as I said, this is really minor. The score is perfectly readable as is, and I'm probably the crazy person for even mentioning it or being bothered by it. And who knows, maybe because the performance was so great, I just had to find something minor to nitpick. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you so much to TwoSet Violin and Sophie Trommel for this amazing concert. This was my second time at the show, so if you want to hear what I thought about the first time I went in Berlin, check out this video that should be on screen now-ish. The plan is to drop the video about Eddie's La Campanella in 2 weeks on May 12th, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Hit the subscribe button if you want to be sure to catch it. So thank you so much for watching this video and seeing it all the way through the end, and I will hopefully see you next time.